Dick wound up being in the same department at MIT. Dick got his master's from what was then ceramics and metallurgy, and Jacob majored in the successor department, which is material science. There's so much that I see of my father and my son, and not just what they did. Anyway, 2 years ago I wrote the obituaries for Mom and Dad. Rereading them, I find that they touched on the biographical basis that I wanted to touch. So I'm not going to reprise the biographies now. Instead, I will work with the letter that Jacob and Daniel just read. It leads me to these thoughts. The first thing that strikes me in that letter is how smitten they were. For 73 years, they remained devoted to each other. Pat's photo, which is towards the end of that little slideshow, where they're near the end of their life, they're holding hands, looking into each other's eyes. It says it all. Dad doted on Mom. At least once a year, he'd write one of his famous poems for her. She was a different kind of person. The way she reciprocated was with humor, but also ferocity. No one could say anything negative about him. She was reliably a bulldog in his defense. As they got further into their 90s and lots of other things fell away, that devotion never stopped. The letter is also a letter about life's choices and responsibilities. And to me, it also gives me some context for them. I think in the mourning process, one of the things that religion does is give you a context. I'd like to do without religion. This is my way to get some context. World War II made them grow up fast. Dick and Ro were 23 and 19 respectively at the time of this letter. The World War II military had to ramp up a lot of things, including junior grade officer corps. So a lot of under 25-year-olds found themselves in positions of great responsibility, where they had to figure things out quickly. At the same time, the military remained the military, with its often cumbersome chain of command fully intact. To solve the problems they were tasked, the young men and women had to work with and around that chain. The best of them developed flexibility, confidence, and a sense of irreverent humor. The letter also tells me something about how my parents went about thinking. I like to delve into that because it helps keep them with me. At the time of the letter, Dick was running an underwater ultrasound lab on the part of the minesweeping R&D for the Navy. He wasn't really doubting the laws of physics in the letter. He's describing being challenged, not stuck. In any experiment or calculation worth doing, you set out a sequence of consistency checks. That's what's going on in the letter when he wrote, I had begun to doubt such basic things as Ohm's law. If something seems off, you check for errors in execution, but you also revisit your assumptions. Maybe measurement X means something different than what you thought going in. This regular self-correction extends into the rest of life, and it requires some humility. It's also how Dad did everything. In the first 69 years I knew him, it wasn't until the last year he ever lost his temper. And that was only when he finally lost that amazing ability to self-correct and became like the rest of us. You may think that the joke formulas in the letter are a sign that Dick was mathematical, but I don't think it's quite that. He was a great empiricist and was certainly comfortable if the formula was what he needed to categorize some data. Being able to think that way helped him understand what was going on and how to make things better. So when a competitor produced teeth that outdid him in one property, he realized that property depended on there being a pressure change in 2 stages of the firing process. By preserving the pressure differential, but changing the absolute pressures, he retained the desired property, but made the finished product better. And that's how progress happens. It also helped him to get around the patent. Although, like Dick, she was a physics major, she never showed signs of that to any of us. The fact that she married Dick, joke formulas and all, was a clue to how sharp she was. I got a better understanding of that when I read her linguistics doctoral thesis in the 1970s, and then reread it again this year. Now, this is what she did. So when a root word is applied to different parts of speech, a language has a set of allowed ending changes with associated vowel, consonant, and stress shifts. As an example, consider the allowed shift pattern with some noun, verb, and adjective groupings like negate, negation, negative, relate, relations, relative, correlate, correlation, correlative. Note the stress and the vowel shift associated with the changed endings. So the allowed shift patterns are a part of how people use the language to build complex meanings from simple roots. Mom hypothesized that internalizing the allowed shift patterns would be a strong predictor of reading ability. It is not a priori obvious that you need to know anything more than the ending changes, ION, IVE, or whatever, to confirm that you also needed the sound and stress shifts. She took a battery of allowed shift patterns, and for each of them invented a few nonsense root words, and asked children in grade and middle school to complete sentences that measured the required shifts. She acknowledged the principal of my elementary school. Probably after she put the kids through all that, we'll never be allowed back in Spalding School. So if the nonce word were, let's say, shoegate, the look for noun and adjective would be shoegation and shoegative. At least I hope so. The whole network of linked meanings built from a set of transitions is best understood with linguist symbols, mental shortcuts again. I suppose none of that qualifies as mathematical, but I think it includes a lot that satisfies some very important necessary conditions. So, my brother Roger will be reading some lines from the Mourner's Kaddish a little later. With a nod to my paternal heritage, I will choose something that doesn't invoke a deity. And this is from Kate McGarrigle. She wrote it for her family when she was near her end. For me, the rhyming couplets sound like my dad, and the spirit very much matches my mother's. Make Saturn slow down a bit as it spins round the sun. It's going awful fast, and I'm having too much fun. Find a cozy parking spot in some laid-back galaxy. Keep the engine running for at least a century. Attention Universe Patrol, start handing out the fines. We're passing every meteor, no planet left behind. So make the Earth slow down a bit. We're going way too fast. And I just want it to last. Thank you.